Whenever you find yourself in a disagreement with your spouse, when you have encountered a conflict, are you solving a problem or are you trying to win an argument? Because what you're focused on here will greatly impact how this is going to turn out for you.
Welcome to the Marriage and Motherhood Podcast. I'm your host, Michelle Perda. As a marriage coach who's married with 3 kids, I know how much parenthood could change a marriage. If flirting, laughing, and having fun together feels like a thing of the past, then I'm here to teach you that marriage doesn't have to feel so hard with your parents, and your marriage can thrive even when you're in the season of raising kids. Whether you're in a good place in your marriage and you just want to continue growing together, or you're wondering if you even like your spouse anymore, this podcast has something for you. Join me here each week as we dive into what it takes to help your marriage grow, and maybe even do a 180. You'll learn ways to handle conflict better, bring that spark back into your relationship, as well as learn how to improve other areas of your life from my lovely guest experts. Are you ready for the next stage of your life in marriage? Let's dive in.
Hello. Welcome back to another episode of the Marriage and Motherhood Podcast. Today we're going to be talking about another perspective or lens for you to view conflict through. So we all know that conflict is a very regular, common experience that we have in our marriage. When we spend a lot of time with people and we have a lot of shared responsibility like kids, the house, conflict is bound to happen because conflict simply means disagreement, right? And what conflict has become synonymous with in the married world, especially in the married with kids world, is arguing. And if you have been in my world for a while, you know my saying. Conflict is inevitable, but arguing is optional, which means that arguing is 100% a choice that we make. We choose to engage in it. We choose to continue it. Maybe we're even starting it. And so today I want to talk to you about something that I came across that will help bring some more intentionality into your thought process, into how you approach conflict so that you can start focusing on the right thing and have conflict work for your marriage so that it's building it, it's strengthening it. You come out stronger together as partners, and you can actually use conflict to end up feeling more connected, more understood, and not feel like it's at the expense of you or your partner, okay? And this new lens that I want you to take a look is simply this question. Whenever you find yourself in a disagreement with your spouse, when you have encountered a conflict, are you solving a problem or are you trying to win an argument? Okay, I want you to sit with that for a moment. Are you trying to solve a problem or are you trying to win an argument? Because what you're focused on here will greatly impact how this is going to turn out for you. Because when you're solving for a problem, that instills collaboration, partnership, understanding, compassion, love. But when you're trying to win an argument, that is instilling a win-lose situation. So one person's going to win, one person's going to lose, or both of you are just going to continue to fight. You guys are not on each other's team. You are viewing each other as enemies. And so we're going to talk about why it's important to focus on solving problems and what you can do to start shifting away from the focus of winning an argument. So, fun fact, I was very much in the win argument team when I started dating, and even in the earlier years of dating my husband, because that is what I saw. I didn't see healthy conflict resolution. I didn't see collaboration. It was more like someone got mad, someone gets blamed, and then someone gets yelled at, or someone storms off. And so, of course, as we do, I took what I saw and I made that my tools, right? I used those tools, healthy or not, in my relationships. And I had no idea that there was any other way to communicate. I thought, well, in order for us to be okay, I need to feel heard. And so for me to feel heard, the only way for that to happen is for me to win the argument. I have to push my point until they get it, because obviously we wouldn't be fighting if they got it. But what I didn't do was take my significant other's feelings into consideration. I didn't live in the world of and. Okay, I talk about this a lot. It was either or. It was either I won or I lost. Instead of living in the world of and, of I feel this way, this is what I want, and you feel this way, and this is what you want, and trying to come together and figure out a creative solution while understanding each other, right? Like truly making an effort to understand the other person rather than making them understand you. Do you see the difference here? Because when we focus on winning, that means we're also focusing on our partner losing. But the only way that we can win as a couple is if we focus on winning together, crossing that finish line together, solving the problem together, viewing the problem as the problem instead of viewing your partner as a problem. Even if they did something that triggered how you feel, you still got to look at the problem as the problem. You got to face the problem as if that's the enemy and not your partner. So here's the thing. When we adopt this win-lose mentality, like I got to win this argument, otherwise I'm going to hurt my pride. We can't lose, we have to win. What this does to the relationship is that it creates competition instead of teamwork. It leads to resentment and unresolved problems. And it also prioritizes your ego, your pride over connection. Now, if you take a step back and you imagine your marriage and what you say matters most, would you say that it's competition, resentment, unresolved problems, and your ego that are important? Or is it teamwork and connection? Because in the heat of the moment, it's really easy to default to that victim mentality and truly feeling like you're in it on your own and you have to win. Otherwise, something catastrophic is going to happen. But what if you allow yourself to consider from a neutral space, not when your emotions are heightened and when you're angry or frustrated or stressed, when you truly ask yourself, what kind of marriage do I want? Are you telling yourself that you want one where you're competing with your spouse, or are you telling yourself that you want one that is full of partnership and connection and collaboration? The goal of conflict and the goal of marriage is not to win. It's to build partnership. It's to connect. That is the prize. That is the reward of being in a relationship, so long as you two are working on it together. The prize is feeling that connection, that bond, that intimacy. And in order for your marriage to be successful and healthy, it has to work for both of you. And when we focus on a win-lose mentality, that's not focusing on what works for both of you. That's focusing on what works for yourself, right? Because of self-preservation, because of your ego, your pride. And so as you start to process, oh, wow, there are things that I've been doing that are more on the team of winning arguments rather than solving problems, I wanted to share some strategies on how you can start to make that shift in your own relationship and in your own life so that you can start to unlearn those habits that you've learned from your upbringing or from previous relationships. Your habits might feel like they're a part of you and they make up who you are, but they're not. They're all learned, which means that you can unlearn them. It might take some time. You might do good for 3 days and then slide back and regress, but that's okay. Progress is not linear, especially when it requires a change in how you've been doing things. Look at how long you've been communicating this way. in dealing with conflict this way. Give yourself some grace, some compassion, and same for your spouse. It's going to take some time. It's going to take partnership for you to navigate through this and evolve into a more productive, a more effective, and healthy way of navigating conflict. But it's so worth it. Imagine conflict not feeling like it is an obstacle in your relationship, something that takes days or weeks to recover from. Imagine if conflict is uncomfortable, obviously, but that by the end of that conversation, you're going to be better than ever. That's how true intimacy is created, is when you have these opportunities that don't feel so great, right? Where something comes up and you're presented with an opportunity to learn more about yourself, whether it's a new trigger that you're discovering, a new boundary you need to set, or something that you're uncovering about yourself that you didn't learn until this incident happened, or you're learning about your partner. This is an opportunity for you to deepen your relationship, to deepen your understanding of yourself and each other, which means that your marriage can grow a more solid foundation. I recently went to Maker's Market, and this sweet plant lady gave me a bud from a plant. And I was like, "Oh, are you sure?" And she's like, "Yeah, no, it's fine. I have so many of them." And I went home and I planted it, and I was like, "Man, these little roots are so tiny." But the thing is, when I put it in an environment where it's getting what it needs, the roots are going to grow. They're going to grow longer, go deeper into the dirt. They're going to grow more roots, and the roots are going to get bigger. And so I want you to imagine your marriage being like that. Once you start looking at conflict as a way to solve a problem, to have more opportunities to work as partners and collaborate and understand each other and deepen that bond, deepen that intimacy, emotional intimacy, that is going to strengthen your relationship. That is going to make your marriage stronger. And when we feel solid, that's what opens up physical intimacy. That's what opens up our ability to feel more free, to be us and stable in our relationship. This is what is considered the work. Not you being married, not you just having a marriage license, not just letting time pass, but actually putting in the work in those uncomfortable times where you're like, everything in me, my past experiences, has me wanting to do this, to be petty, to criticize, to blame, to not take responsibility, and to be reactive. But from listening to this podcast, being married is not the same as being happily married. And being happily married doesn't just happen. It takes effort. It takes growth. And it is 100% a choice. Sometimes it's hard work, and sometimes you get to reap those benefits of that hard work. But it is hard work that is so worth it because it's your happiness on the line. It's your kids' future on the line because they are learning from what they see you do and what they see you not do. So here are some practical ways that you can start to shift your focus from winning arguments to solving problems, okay? I'm going to share my free conflict to connection guide. The first one is pause and reflect. What is the real issue here? It is so easy to get caught in the back and forth, right? Oh, you said that, and now I have all these feelings. I'm going to say something back to you to hurt you back. What if you sift through all that drama, the unnecessary drama, and figure out, what are we fighting about again? What are we actually talking about here? Okay, because that back and forth is the distraction, right? That's your pride saying, hey, don't you let them talk to you like that. Don't you let them treat you like that. Or remember last time someone said that to you, this is what they meant. I want you to sift through that. I want you to see through that bullshit and be like, wait a minute, we're getting off track here. What is the problem that we are dealing with right now? You can think through this yourself, or if you're actively in a conflict with your spouse, you can call a timeout and be like, whoa, 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 hold on. I see that we're not getting anywhere here. I see that we're both very upset. What are we fighting about again? What are we trying to solve here? When you can pause the conversation, it's kind of like stopping an avalanche from happening. You're noticing, oh, wait, we're off track here. And you bring back that focus. That's going to help you to get back on the path of being partners, because you can't solve a problem that you don't agree on that is a problem. If you two are having this conversation and you think one problem is the problem and the other person thinks a different problem is the problem, that can be very difficult to navigate, right? So if you guys can get on the same page about what the actual problem is, that's already a great start. And that will help you to focus on what the purpose of the conversation is. It's kind of like going into a meeting and it's like, why are there so many things that we're talking about? Let's get this focus. What are the meetings of, like, what is the plan for this? What is the purpose of this meeting? It's not a free-for-all, because that's going to get us nowhere. What is the point of this meeting? The next thing I want you to remember is to adopt a same team mindset. You and your spouse are on the same side, and you're tackling the problem together. So I want you to look at disagreements as not a me versus you kind of thing. It's a me and you kind of thing. It's a collaboration opportunity, not a competition. Can you just remember collaboration over competition? Collaboration over competition. So if you ever feel like you guys are starting to compete, you can always just pause and be like, hey, I'm on the same team as you. And sometimes that simple saying is a great reminder for your spouse. Or you could ask your spouse to say that, hey, if you ever notice that I'm starting to go off track and you feel like I'm starting to shift the blame to you, can you remind me that we're on the same team? Because when we get stuck in that mode, we default to what we've been doing the longest, right? The strongest muscle, which for you may be to compete at this time, right? But we're also trying to build that muscle of collaboration. So sometimes we need that accountability from our partner and be like, oh, right, yes, collaboration. Okay. Because it is more of a conscious effort to think differently than how we normally would have. But if you truly want to change the way you navigate conflict, it's going to require you to think differently. You can't continue doing the same stuff and expecting a different result. And like I said in a recent episode, what got you here won't get you there. So if how you're handling conflict and how your marriage feels today isn't how you want it to feel, then you cannot do what you've been doing. You need to introduce something different in order for you to get to where you need to go. Okay? Another strategy, which I've said so many times before because it works, is using I statements. I was so good at blaming people before. So good. It came so easy to me. Because clearly, I'm being sarcastic here, okay? Clearly, when I'm upset, it's because of someone else. Because before I talked to them, I was fine. So clearly, it's their fault, right? That is genuinely what I believed. I believe that anytime someone triggered me, it was their fault and it was for them to fix. But you know what? I never felt satisfied with what they ended up doing, even if they apologized. You know why? Because it wasn't them. It was me. I had unresolved problems with myself, and I was putting it on other people to make me feel better. When really, the problem wasn't them. It was my reaction to what they did. It was my lack of speaking up for myself and setting proper boundaries and knowing myself. That was the problem, not the person. So if you haven't been doing this already, start using I statements more often. Instead of saying, you never listen to me, it's, I feel unheard when we talk about this. I don't feel understood. Because when we don't use I statements, that shifts the blame to the other person, and then they feel attacked. instead of sympathetic and a desire and motivation to understand you and try and help you. They feel like putting their walls up. They feel like getting you back, right? Their ego comes out to play. But we don't want that. We want vulnerability. We want collaboration. We want connection. The next is so powerful, and that's to get curious instead of defensive. I used to, and sometimes I still do when I'm not feeling so great, like when I'm about to start my period soon, or when I'm really tired, or if I'm sick, right? I'm not firing on all cylinders. I can get defensive. Depending on what people say, I'll look at things through the lens of how does that impact me? What does that mean about me? What are you saying about me? Even if they're not even talking about me, I just interpret things differently. And the key to get through that is curiosity. Asking questions to yourself to be more reflective on why does that bother me? What about that bothers me? And why does it matter to me right now? Would that bother me on a different week? Or, I wonder why they chose to do that. I know the quick answers in my mind will be like, oh, because they're mad at you, because they didn't like that you did this, or they don't care about you. Okay, those are the first batch. What's another batch I can come up with? Oh, maybe they're having a rough day and they didn't mean anything by it. And I'm just kind of like collateral damage for their crankiness, but it's nothing personal to me. Or maybe they're focusing on something else right now. Or maybe I did something and I don't even know. Our job is to listen with intent to understand, not the intent to respond, which is most people, right? I know I did this. Whenever my husband would talk to me, I already have my response ready to go, which means that I was formulating and processing what I was going to retort with rather than truly trying to understand where he's coming from and truly understand how he's feeling. And so when we shift to seeking to understand before being understood, that's where we get to build that bridge and we demonstrate to our partners, hey, I'm here for you. Even though I'm also upset, I am here for us and I am available to listen to what you have to say. And the beautiful thing that happens when we do that is we're not saying we don't deserve to be heard. We're saying, hey, I'm here to listen to you. And when they feel heard, they no longer feel the need to push their point. They no longer feel the push to get you to understand because they already feel understood. So instead, they have the capacity to now return the favor and understand you instead of firing back and like, no, I didn't do that. I don't understand why you're mad, right? Like none of that. It's just you're sharing, I'm sharing, and then we're going to take all that information and figure something out together, which leads to my next point, which is brainstorming. What do teams do to solve problems? They brainstorm, right? So instead of arguing about who's right, flip it to how can we make this work for both of us? What's really important about this for you? This is what's important for me. And come up with a creative solution that works for both of you. In this situation, it's truly two heads are better than one because you have no idea what is going on in their world. And they don't have any idea what's going on in your world. Not completely, at least. Maybe they have a small inkling, but there are always things going on that are priorities to us that we haven't shared, that aren't clear to them. And we have all that clarity from each other, from that understanding, it makes coming up with solutions way easier. So try those out. Let me know how it goes. I would love to hear how that shifts how you experience arguments. You deserve to have conflict work for your marriage. And if you're struggling with that, let me know. That is what I help my clients with. I want you to get to the point where conflict is a growing opportunity for you too, not just another notch that goes against the success of your marriage. I want you to grow closer together. I want you to have more time connecting and having fun and actually enjoying being married and demonstrating to your kids how great of a model you two are as a couple. so that they're solid for their future relationships. I want that for you. I don't want you to spend time arguing and fighting. Have your conflict, learn from them, but arguing, fighting, let's figure out how to stop that, or at least bring that down to a minimum where it's not a regular occurrence in your marriage, because that is possible. Okay. I am living proof of that. I have clients who will tell you that their conflict doesn't escalate as much anymore or at all. Maybe they fight once a year, twice a year. So if you're experiencing arguments and fighting on the regular, I invite you to start trying what I recommended in this episode. And if you're still having trouble, reach out to me. So let's do a quick recap. The goal of conflict is not to win. It's to solve a problem. It's to understand each other better. So go out and try it. Reach out to me if you have any questions or if you just want to share what happened. I would love to celebrate you. And go download the Conflict to Connection Guide. That's going to help you gain even more clarity around how you feel about the situation so that you can head into the conversation grounded in how you feel, what it is that you want out of it, and just overall with more focus so that you can continue to shift your stance on conflict from winning to solving. Okay. And then, of course, if you want to work together, I would love to get to know you. Book a clarity call. The link is in the show notes. Everything is there. And that's all I got for you. Now, if you know anyone that could benefit from hearing this episode, please share this with them so that they can get the help that they need and have the marriage that they want. And if you love this show, I would love it if you leave a rating and review on Spotify or iTunes. All right, that's it. I'll catch you back here on the next episode. Bye.
That's it for this episode. I hope you enjoyed it as much as I enjoyed making it. If you did, please send me a message over on Instagram at Michelle Perta Coaching to let me know what you loved most about it. Hearing from my listeners is my absolute favorite. And if you've been loving this podcast, please leave a rating and review. This will help people like you find the show and get the help they need. Catch you here on the next episode. Bye.